Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
And welcome, everybody, to Caregiver Solutions Info. I'm Marcia Teele, your host, and I'm glad you could join us, whether you're listening on the radio or whether you're joining us streaming live from beautiful Boca Raton, Florida, on your computer on caregiversolutions.info. I'm glad you're here. We have a great show for you today. This program was designed just for caregivers so that you can learn more about caregiving, learn more about Alzheimer's disease, other related dementia, to hopefully make your caregiving task a little bit easier. We bring experts that are wonderful and supportive, and they come to the show to share their expertise with you so that you can learn and share with others. And so I'm glad you're here with us today. Today is Tuesday, March the 1st, 2016. So we're already into March, and I can't believe the year goes by so quickly. It's unbelievable, but when you're busy and you're working and you're a caregiver, whether you're a spouse, whether you're an adult child, whether you're a niece, a nephew, a grandchild, caregiving is very, very difficult. And not only do you have to live your own life, but you have so many responsibilities. And we understand that. So we really are glad that we can help you, that you can tune in and learn a little bit and help others to help themselves. So again, welcome. The show is going to be awesome again today. We have a wonderful guest, and it's going to be all about Parkinson's disease, which Parkinson's, as you may or may not know, can also be related to dementia. And of course, we're going to give you some wonderful caregiving tips. But before we get started with our guests, we have a few things that we would like to announce. Number one, the upcoming Alzheimer's Community Care Educational Conference. It's coming up this month, March 17th and 18th at the West Palm Beach Convention Center. This is for caregivers and professionals, but it's for learning. It's very educational. There's special speakers that come from all over the world to share their expertise on Alzheimer's, on the latest research, on caregiving techniques, on things you need to know. I'm proud to say that I'm, again this year, one of the breakout speakers for the conference. And so we'll be sharing with you things that you need to know about assisted living, about when to choose an assisted living, about what's the difference between nursing home and assisted living. So we have lots of good information for you. If you're interested in attending this wonderful conference, you just go to the website, alzcare.org. That's alzcare.org. You can find all the information you need, how much it costs, very, very affordable for caregivers. Sign up and plan to be there. There's probably 500 people at least that come to this conference, and you won't want to miss it. So last week, our guest was Cherie Thomas of Set for Fitness, and we talked about self-defense for women, and especially self-defense for caregivers, because caregivers, again, you have a lot on your plate, you're distracted a lot of times, we're out there in the world, and we want to protect not only ourselves but our loved one, and so we learned some great self-defense techniques from Cherie. But we had Judy from Lake Worth that sent us an email, and Judy has some advice that she'd like to share. She said that if you ever get hit from behind, and apparently this comes from Judy's personal experience, if you ever get hit from behind in your car, which could be a possible carjacking. You've heard about that. People tap your car, you get out of your car, you want to see what the damage is. In the meantime, somebody else, an accomplice, gets in your car, takes your car away, and then you're lost high and dry. So if you ever get in that situation, Judy says, before you get out of the car to assess the damage, call the police. Call them and let them know what has happened. And even if it's nothing, the police will be there. If you don't have a telephone, Judy says, honk your horn until you get someone else's attention. Make some attention, get some help, have people looking at what's going on. That way, if it is a possible carjacking, then possibly they will flee because all of a sudden attention is drawn to them. They don't want the police coming. They don't want other people being there to, thwart their attempts. So that's good advice from Judy. Thank you, Judy, for sharing that with us. And if you have a question or a comment of anything that you've heard or seen on this program, just send me an email and we'll answer it the following week. And the way to do that is just email me at, here it goes, marcia.teele@arden-courts.com. That's marcia.teele@arden-courts.com. Send me an email, comments, questions, anything you might like to know about Alzheimer's, about assisted living, anything at all, and we'll get your question answered on the air. So today we're going to be talking about Parkinson's disease, and Parkinson's disease is very similar to other diseases in the fact that it can cause dementia. It is a debilitating disease. Caregivers get involved, and we're going to be talking to an expert in the field of Parkinson's and sharing with us what we can do to help care for someone, what it's all about. And we're going to be with her as soon as we come back from this quick commercial, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. Make First Choice your first choice for home health care. First Choice is state certified for Medicare-covered services such as medical treatment and rehabilitation. Qualified healthcare professionals come to your home and work closely with your doctor to build a care plan designed to get you back on your feet as soon as possible. Founded and operated by registered nurses, First Choice Home Health is dedicated to providing exceptional home health care. Their highly skilled medical professionals have the knowledge and ability to provide patients quality care. Call First Choice Home Health at 561-296-2770. That's 561-296-2770. And tell them you want them as your first choice. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
And we're back with Caregiver Solutions Info. Today we're going to be talking about Parkinson's disease and what it's all about. And here to share with us her expertise is Denise Jordan. Denise is the Executive Director of the American Parkinson's Disease Association of the South Florida chapter. Welcome, Denise.
Well, thank you, Marcia. Thank you so much. This is a great opportunity to be able to talk to your listenership And I just wanted to kind of explain to your listeners about what Parkinson's really is.
Yes, I think there might be some misconceptions about that. People may have know people with Parkinson's, and they don't really understand it. Same thing with Alzheimer's disease. So we want to really first set the tone, set the basis. What is it, and give us an overview.
So the overview in terms of Parkinson's disease is really a neurological degenerative disease. It's actually a movement disorder problem. And then what happens is it's a slow progression, and then it can become chronic. And it really depends on how one is diagnosed, because oftentimes what will happen is they are misdiagnosed. They're misdiagnosed for various reasons, because it's very similar to Alzheimer's. It's very similar to other, movement disorder and brain disorder diseases. So oftentimes what happens is someone will become misdiagnosed with it.
So it's important if,
yeah.
To go to a specialist, make sure that you get the proper diagnosis. And when would somebody even have a clue about something might be going on? Would there be any signs or symptoms that would show up? How would someone have any idea that they even needed to go to a doctor?
So sometimes what will happen is the speech becomes a little bit slurred, or the voice inflection becomes really soft. So it becomes almost like a whisper. Then there are gait and balance issues. So, sometimes what will happen is you'll get up from a chair and you'll freeze. And you're not sure how to proceed from there. So, something that's very natural for somebody to take the first step.
Right.
They'll kind of freeze in that area.
I think that's a classic sign. I mean, I think people that know anything about Parkinson's disease, they know that people kind of don't have a balance or have that frozen stance.
Yes,
isn't that right?
That's correct. And sometimes people will hold their hands very close to their body and put their hands in a pocket so that people don't see that they're having trouble, kind of moving their arms. There are sometimes not only the speech, but also you'll have sleep deprivation. So there'll be oftentimes where the person can't sleep. There may be signs that sometimes you'll see the tremors, and now that's kind of the obvious,
yes.
Kind of thing where you'll see people,
like
kind of
shaking,
move their hands, shaking. That's right, from various degrees. And then oftentimes what will happen is someone like Michael J. Fox is what we call young onset.
Yes, he is young, and when he was very young when he was diagnosed, I don't know exactly how young he was, but I was shocked.
Yeah, so he was in his 30s. So
wow.
there are many people in their 30s that have been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and I want to kind of get back to, kind of got off track a little bit, Marcia, in terms of when they should see a neurologist. So oftentimes someone will see a neurologist, but they should also see a movement disorder specialist, because this is a movement disorder. And so often
that's separate.
That is separate
from a neurologist,
Absolutely.
Not the same kind of doctor.
Not the same kind of doctor.
Okay.
So oftentimes a neurologist might pick it up, but it's always best to have that second opinion to go to a movement disorder specialist that specializes in Parkinson's disease.
And are those type of specialists prevalent out there, or are they,
yes, they
are they rare?
Yes, they are. And that's part of what we do in terms of an organization. For the American Parkinson's Disease Association, we actually have information referrals. So if someone called up and said, I think I have some symptoms, can you give us a list of neurologists or movement disorder specialists, and we will provide that information for the person.
That's great. So you might want to start with a neurologist to kind of see what's going on.
That's
have
right.
all the tests, rule out any other diseases or any other thing that might be going on in the brain, and then from that you have a better clue as to what the next step would be.
That's absolutely spot on. And oftentimes what will happen is that movement disorder specialist will then kind of, look at it from the standpoint of really kind of putting together some kind of maintenance for you, because it is a chronic disease.
And there's no cure for that,
There
right?
is no cure for it right now.
So again, like Alzheimer's disease, there's no cure.
That's right.
So we're trying to manage through it as best we can.
That's right. So with all the medicines that one is, prescribed for, and if you don't have any other, it's really kind of complicated because oftentimes it's compounded by other symptoms on top of the Parkinson's.
For example.
So for example, you might have dementia, and that's on top of the Parkinson's disease. So you really want to have that specialist look at it from the standpoint of treating you in an organic situation.
And they might call that Parkinson-related dementia.
That's correct.
And when, a doctor, a neurologist is diagnosing Alzheimer's, if they can't find a real reason or cause for the memory loss, it's not from a brain injury, it's not from, some other instances where maybe they could pinpoint a vascular type dementia, maybe someone had a stroke, heart attack, went to the brain. When they can't figure out what it's from and they rule out everything else, they usually say it's Alzheimer's type dementia or dementia of the Alzheimer's type. So it sounds like same thing with Parkinson's disease. They're looking to rule out other things and then go, with that diagnosis because they're actually ruling out in order to get to the proper diagnosis.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then you'll find that there'll be programs that that the physician will prescribe that will help to kind of maintain and give you some kind of maintenance on it. So there should be a team, and we talk about that all the time, about what are some of the pathways. So for instance, like oftentimes a geriatric doctor will call up and says, look, my patient has Parkinson's disease, how do I, help my patient kind of manage this? And we say that there's a pathway. So you've got the neurologist on your team. Then there should be a movement disorder specialist. That movement disorder specialist should then take over and then kind of prescribe physical therapy, make sure that you have a speech pathologist if need be. And then, from there is to really have a regimen of exercise, because that's one of the things that happens that because of people being diagnosed with Parkinson's, often you'll get a Parkinsonian that basically is just, they are really kind of in a situation where they feel they're angry. They go through all kinds of emotions about, being diagnosed with this. And you want to set the stage so that the maintenance of it begins right away, and more so than, having it go down, the pathway of maybe a month after they've been diagnosed.
Right. So you want to treat the whole person,
Yes.
body, mind, everything.
That's right.
And is there a particular age that Parkinson's disease starts or can begin, or does it matter?
Well, it's kind of prevalent around the 60-year-old, 65, 62, somewhere in that, vicinity. And then, of course, you've got the young onsets that basically are, still are able to work. But then, as it progresses, then, of course, that changes the situation totally in terms of lifestyle.
Right. And, with Alzheimer's disease, the earlier someone is diagnosed with it, when they have early onset Alzheimer's disease, the disease actually progresses quicker than it would for somebody who might get it in later years, maybe in their 70s, let's say, for instance. Is that the same way with Parkinson's disease?
It's very similar, because what happens is, and there are stages. So, physicians will say, well, there's stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oftentimes, because it has not been diagnosed and goes, kind of dormant because it doesn't kind of rear its head, it's usually stage 3 and 4 when people have been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And if they had caught it at 1 and 2, it's more manageable. It's not, something that's going to be corrected, but certainly you stand a better chance of having the medicine work at its best.
It's so interesting, Denise, that you say that, because there's so many similarities between Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. For Alzheimer's, we say the same thing. Get diagnosed early. There's medication. the doctors can prescribe, try to slow down the progression of the disease. It's very, very similar. So I think, we're really on the same page here with helping people to get what they need sooner than later.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, one of the best things is to get educated. So that's why that movement disorder specialist is really important and really key, because they can really kind of encapsulate what needs to happen and really kind of provide that kind of program and really kind of look at it from the standpoint of these are the things you're going to need. And then as you progress, they're able to kind of track that and even change medications in terms of, levels and, et cetera.
Right. And when you mentioned the movement disorder specialist, you also mentioned physical therapy, but those are, again, two different disciplines.
Correct.
And so tell me the difference, or tell our audience, share with all of us, what would be the major differences. Do they work hand in hand with each other, and the physical therapist maybe give reports to the movement specialist?
Yes, if they're working in concert with each other. Notice I said if they're working in concert with each other.
Is that a big thing? Because sometimes they don't?
Well, sometimes there is a disconnect.
Okay.
And so what we're trying to do is provide the impetus for these, for the physicians and the OT/PT people to really work together in concert, because all of the things that are maintaining that person has to be tracked. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. A movement disorder says, okay, I think, Joe, you really need to go to a physical therapist. And this physical therapist is going to be able to help you in terms of your gait, in terms of your balance, learning that if you fall, how to get up. So all of these things really add credence to the fact of more independence, to be able to be an advocate. And then what happens is that tracking mechanisms, that physical therapist is able to, kind of track you and then kind of prescribe, okay, well, what might be the next steps? And then help that person, move into that next level of care. Then that information should be extrapolated and then sent to the movement disorder specialist so that they can all kind of keep an eye on the progression and also helping that person really maintain what they need to.
Right. And then maybe even at some point still involving the neurologist, because if you get a dementia on top of the Parkinson, then now you've got a couple things going on here. And so it's really takes experts in the field to diagnose, to recognize, to help, and it's important to get that as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I don't know what people do when they don't get help, because I don't know about you, but I have some caregivers that have kind of put their head in the sand, and they don't want to admit that maybe there's something wrong with a parent or a spouse or a sibling, and they kind of just figure maybe if I don't do anything, it'll go away. That happens a lot with Alzheimer's disease. Do you see that with Parkinson's also?
Yes, I think it is. It is imperative that the more education, the loved one who has Parkinson's, but also the caregiver, to really understand the depth of the disease. And then moving forward is really that education, so that when the progression starts, it's not so daunting. And, even in terms of when we talk about caregivers, I mean, it is the isolation. It's the anger that they have to endure, during this entire situation.
Yep.
They're isolated from not only their family, but their friends. We receive calls often from a caregiver that basically will talk about the isolation, but also the frustration and anger because they don't have anywhere to go. They don't have an outlet. Mm-hmm. Some of the Parkinsonians they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
But the caregiver is really absorbing all of whatever happens, within the context of the relationships.
Wow, this is great. This is good stuff. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to have more great information about Parkinson's disease with Denise Jordan. So stay with us.
Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney, but perhaps find it difficult or overwhelming getting to appointments? The solution is the Elder Law Department. They bring elder law to you by meeting with you in the comfort of your own surroundings to discuss your personal situation and family needs. In practice since 1994, Heidi Friedman is a member of the Elder Law section of the Florida Bar. She and her team help families with issues that include incapacity and estate planning, asset preservation, veterans benefits, and other legal issues that seniors may face. Call the Elder Law Department at 954-383-1143. 954-383-1143. They bring elder law to you. Make First Choice your first choice for home health care. First Choice is state certified for Medicare covered services such as medical treatment and rehabilitation. Qualified healthcare professionals come to your home and work closely with your doctor to build a care plan designed to get you back on your feet as soon as possible. Founded and operated by registered nurses, First Choice Home Health is dedicated to providing exceptional home health care. Their highly skilled medical professionals have the knowledge and ability to provide patients quality care. Call First Choice Home Health at 561-296-2770. That's 561-296-2770. And tell them you want them as your first choice. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'd like to thank our national sponsor, Arden Court's Memory Care Community, for helping to make this program available, and also our other sponsors. Please call them. Please tap into the resources that you hear about on this show. Arden Courts is an assisted living, a memory care community designed specifically for people with Alzheimer's, Parkinsonian-type dementia, other types of memory loss. And they are experts in the field, and they will help you no matter what you need, whether you're looking for a respite stay to get a break, whether you need long-term placement, whether you need a support group, or whether you just need an ear and a helping hand and resource information. So because Arden Courts is so important to your resource, and they feel that you need to have everything at your fingertips to help caregivers, they are offering to caregivers and to professionals who hear about this on our show the 36-hour day book. This is considered the ultimate in caregiving for Alzheimer's and related dementia. It was written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace, and it is available just for the asking from Arden Courts. If you'd like your own copy, all you have to do is call our toll-free number, 888-478-2410. That's 888-478-2410. Tell them that you heard about this on the Caregiver Solutions Info program, and they'll be happy to take your name and address and send you this book just for watching. It is absolutely the best guide of its kind. It's already in its 5th edition, which means it's been around a long time because it's so good. It's been updated, and you won't want to not have this in your library and take some time for yourself to learn and maybe help your day be better, which is going to help your loved one's day be better too. So that being said, we're talking with Denise Jordan. She's the executive director of the American Parkinson Disease Association, South Florida chapter. And so, Denise, we've been talking about what Parkinson disease is, how to recognize some of the signs and symptoms, get to the right doctors. Let's talk about someone that, let's say a caregiver has done all that for their loved one who is suffering from Parkinson's disease. Now they're in the home and they're trying to manage. Let's talk about some tips, some caregiving ideas some safety ideas maybe in the home, because you mentioned with this particular disease, there's I'm sure safety problems because of their gait, because of their balance. So what can you share about those topics for our caregivers?
Well, I think what's really important is if you can, if you have the ability and the capabilities, I would certainly suggest that you look at it from the standpoint of if you have rugs or carpet that that you want to make sure that it's safe that they can walk, because oftentimes that gait they're going to shuffle their feet, and so it's better if they had a bare floor, only because it allows them to kind of move their feet faster, or be able to pick that up. Even in terms of how they get up, that there's an armchair, so that it makes it easier for them to put both hands on.
Push themselves
That's
up.
right, so they can put their hands up. Oftentimes, you sometimes have to remind your loved one, because it's so innate for us to just grab a hold and just stand up. Oftentimes, what happens is they stand up and then they lose their balance. So oftentimes what you want to do is be able to, brace yourself with the two hands and come up just slowly. And then, you almost have to train your mind in a sense to say, okay, take your first step, either your right foot or your left foot.
Right. And I mean, like some people, if you jump out of bed too quick, you can lose your balance, or sometimes you kind of feel like you've got that fainty feeling. And you do get confused, and sometimes it's better just to stand up and get the blood flowing, and then, like you say, be more intentional about it.
Yes.
And if you're intentional about it and you know what you're going to do, and caregivers will have to coach, because when someone is into the disease to a certain point and they're more confused and they have the dementia with it, they're going to need to be coached more, I would think, about, okay, now just stand there for a second. All right, now let's move your foot, move your right foot. And caregivers can be really involved in that, can't they?
Yes, because, it takes two. It really takes a village when it comes time for, a loved one that has Parkinson's. So that coaching, and I think that's perfect case in point, Marcia, that being a coach is really important, for the psychic as well. And oftentimes, sometimes what will happen is they would prefer to sit in a chair all day as opposed to getting up, because it is such a challenge for them. And many times what has to happen is that coach, you being the caregiver, is to get them up and get them moving.
And moving is important.
It is extremely important because of the dopamine levels. So when that dopamine level is so low, it is, and it's just like for the rest of us. I mean, it's those endorphins that allow us to really kind of move the body in the right way. So it goes the same way. It's even more important for someone to move, whether it's, taking a walk, whether it's taking some kind of class. Some people will take Tai Chi class. Sometimes people will take a movement class.
Yoga? Is yoga good?
Oh, yoga is good.
Okay, good. I do yoga.
Is good. I mean, really. So it's really important, and that's some of the programs that we actually offer, because it's so key.
Wow.
To the well-being of the person with Parkinson's disease.
What about we talked about before the tremors and with the hand shaking? Is there anything particular as a special exercise that coaches and can do with their loved one?
You know what? It really depends on the OT or the movement disorders, specialists. And it also is to the degree of where the tremors are. Some of them are really, you can barely see it. And then there are others that move very quickly. And it's very hard, to really kind of manage a fork or spoon or utensils.
Right.
There are some products that are out here, that allow for some kind of apparatus where they can use so that they can get to, the fork and spoon up to their mouth. Oftentimes, there are, dribbles. So you want to make sure that, they don't choke on the water or whatever they're drinking. even in terms of nutrition, about how they use their meds as opposed to when they have protein and when they have vegetables and fruits, etc. All this, it has a major play in it. That's where the coach comes in, particularly, at home.
Right. And, again, similarity with Alzheimer's disease, because it comes a point where some people that have Alzheimer's, they can't use utensils anymore because they're confused about not so much that their hands they're not shaking, it's that they don't know what the utensils are for.
Correct.
And they can't figure out that they have to hold the fork, pierce the food, get it to their mouth, and they can't manage that. Sometimes they try to use the wrong utensil. They try to use a knife instead of a spoon or whatnot. So in that case, sometimes it's easier for a person with Alzheimer's to eat finger foods. And we have a caller that is calling into the show, and we're going to take that caller and see what they have to say about this conversation. And it's Miguel. Miguel, are you there?
Yes, I'd love to provide some feedback online. It's hard for me. I have tardive dyskinesia and all of that from the military, and I've had radiation poisoning. And if you know anyone, it's been 100% cure to listen to WWNN. For me, antioxidants are such as the goji berry, other things like that can go a long way to help you stand up. And do you know any? I have tried to find free resources for antioxidants.
Right.
They're very pricey. It's hard to keep up, but
right.
You're supposed to take them every day.
Well, there's lots of good food, natural foods that have antioxidants in them. I know the experts say that really we should be intaking natural foods with the antioxidants, like you said, the berries and the bright fruits and the bright vegetables. And, even chocolate has antioxidants in it, which is one of my favorite things to have. And that's good.
In chocolate, I listened to the Natural Doc for a long time. It's a huge redemptive asset to have WWNN. Unfortunately, it's not known. I mean, it's a miracle. There's actually miracle cures out there, and they're not on your show yet. It would be wonderful if my mother, who lived to be 93, and she's still in a long-term facility now. It would be wonderful if I could bring in these antioxidants, but they won't let me.
Yes, because everything is regulated. I know some people even want to bring some medications in from Canada, and, there's rules and regulations, and everything has to be prescribed by a doctor. Perhaps you could work with the community where she is and the doctor there. And
yeah, I haven't tried, but I don't think you people are aware how secretive these facilities are. Hello?
I'm here.
Oh, what they check a blood test so many times for anything, and even if somebody goes through your drawers and sees a little eyedropper bottle in the drawer, they'll take it out and they'll discard it.
And does your mom have a diagnosis of dementia or Parkinson?
No, cardiac obstructive tobacco.
Okay. Well, they do have to be careful. They have to protect the residents, and not so much protect maybe in your situation, but other residents that are there too. And so we're going to, we're going to be aware of that. Thank you for your call about the antioxidants. And if you want to email me, you can email me at marcia.teele@arden-courts.com, and we can continue this conversation. Thank you so much, Miguel, for calling in. So that was great. And, there are lots of different medications and natural foods, like we're talking about, Denise, that can help with the overall health of someone. I know one of the particular, go-to drugs for Parkinson is it Cinemet?
Yes.
Yes. That's the only one that I know. I think that's been around a long time.
That's correct.
And is that still being used?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, you got to work with your healthcare professionals like Miguel. Sometimes supplements are good in these cases, natural foods, medication. You want the best for what it's going to do. And sometimes you have to weigh the pros and cons too, because if you're taking a medication and sometimes even a supplement, there's side effects. And, you really have to have a licensed professional to look at the pros and cons and look at the things that might be contraindicative to having this plus this. Maybe it's not a good combination. So we don't want to, start self-prescribing because it could do more harm than good. So, Denise, let's continue with talking about Parkinson, about safety. Parkinson actually can advance, and after it advances, people may start using a walker and then a wheelchair. And is that a natural progression? Do you see any advances in helping to find more cure for this, or what causes it?
Well, there's a lot of research being done, whether it be here in the United States or even in Europe. And the research is, it's a slow process, but people are working diligently on it. But they feel very positive that they're going to be able to come up with a cure, and we're certainly looking forward to that.
Well, I hope they do, because if they have a cure for Alzheimer's disease and they have a cure for Parkinson's disease, then you and I will be out of a job and we can retire and go on a vacation together.
That would be wonderful. That would be
But
wonderful.
until then, we're here, and we are here for you. Denise is a wealth of information, and she's going to share with us a lot more. We're going to take our last quick commercial break, and we come back. You won't want to miss what else Denise has to share. So stay with us. See you in a minute.
Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney, but perhaps find it difficult or overwhelming getting to appointments? The solution is the Elder Law Department. They bring elder law to you by meeting with you in the comfort of your own surroundings to discuss your personal situation and family needs. In practice since 1994, Heidi Friedman is a member of the Elder Law section of the Florida Bar. She and her team help families with issues that include incapacity and estate planning, asset preservation, veterans benefits, and other legal issues that seniors may face. Call the Elder Law Department at 954-383-1143. 954-383-1143. They bring elder law to you. Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Hi, and welcome back to Caregiver Solutions. I'm Marcia Teele, your host, and with me is Denise Jordan of the American Parkinson Disease Association South Florida chapter. And we're talking about Parkinson's disease, related dementia, do's and don'ts. And so, Denise, I have another question for you. With Alzheimer's comes a lot of changes in the brain as well as the body, and we're seeing similarities between Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. So do Parkinson, you call them Parkinsonians?
Yes.
Is that your word?
Uh-huh.
Okay, Parkinsonians, do they exhibit some bizarre mental behaviors as far as maybe some type of psychosis or psychotic behaviors, like seeing things? Does that ever happen?
Oh yes, and it's usually due to a lot of the medication that they take. So there are some side effects that happen, and oftentimes what happens for the caregiver is, we've gotten calls where caregivers have literally had to move out of the bedroom and move into a safe haven because the delusion in terms of what happens, nightmares and they feel someone's always trying to get them. So there are some side effects that really impact the relationships
Right. Same thing with Alzheimer's disease. They don't remember. They have these episodes where, like you said, they don't know who the person is. They think it's a stranger. A wife told me, she said, my husband thinks that I'm his girlfriend and his wife is gone out of town and I'm the girlfriend in bed with him. She goes, but I'm the wife of 50 years. He just doesn't remember.
Yeah.
I said, well, then maybe you'll have a really good time, just take advantage of it, be the girlfriend. And I said, it's not funny, but at the same time, you have to keep your sense of humor. And if there's one thing I know about, going through diseases is keep your sense of humor. And I'm sure you would have that advice for caregivers of Parkinsonians also.
Absolutely. And the best thing to do is really kind of surround yourself with people who are going through this very same thing, because the ability to share that information among people who are really going through the trenches is really imperative in terms of your own self-being.
Right. Now, how would someone find other people that are in their shoes caring for a Parkinsonian?
So for us, we actually have support groups for and this is how we do it in terms of format. We normally have a group that's split up. So both the caregiver and the Parkinsonian person actually is within the confines of the first hour with each and every one of them together.
As couples?
As couples.
Okay.
And then they split off so that they can really kind of talk about, the various issues. Because oftentimes it's very sensitive issues and they just don't want to talk about that in front of their loved ones. So it's really great and it gives that support. So for APDA, that's what we do. We do a lot of support system, services for those particular groups. So those with Parkinson's as well as those with caregivers.
Wow, I like that idea though of having the Parkinsonian with the caregiver, because they're a team, and like we talked about before, they're the coach and helping, and they're there to help support. So you're giving education to both of them at the same time. And they're hearing you together, so it's not he said, she said. They're really getting that information together so they can work as a team. And then by splitting up, they have a chance to vent, because I'm sure that caregivers are going to be venting and they're going to say, things that their loved one wouldn't want to hear, and that's okay because it's good to vent, but it's good to vent with into safe ears.
That's right.
Yeah,
and something that we've done this year in terms of a new kind of business model is we actually have a professional MSW that actually provides the facilitator's role. So you really have someone who's really professional that can really kind of delve into and really kind of drill into what's really happening, whether it's something subconsciously or something that's, for real, for the caregiver.
Right. Now, you're with the South Florida chapter of the American Parkinson Disease Association. Are there many other chapters located across the country?
Yes, there are about 32 chapters and INR centers, what we call is information and referral centers. So what happens is the information referral systems and services, they're actually mandated by someone that's in, a hospital setting, and then that allows them to be part of the neurologist, the movement disorder specialist, et cetera, et cetera. For the chapters, we actually have information and referral in terms of movement disorder, the PT, OT, which is the occupational therapist, the physical therapist, and the neurologist. And so as a team, we're able to kind of give that information out to the caregiver or whoever calls from the family. And then on top of that, we actually provide services, which is being given as the what we call as the Boca Ballet.
The Boca Ballet?
Boca Ballet
What do you mean?
has a movement program for Parkinson's. So they see about 80 Parkinson's people every week.
At the ballet center?
At the ballet center here in Boca.
Wow.
And we sponsor that.
Is that right? That's really
Absolutely.
cool.
So this is our third year sponsoring, and they actually are certified in Parkinson's. And they actually went to the Robert Morris Dance Theater up in New York. They got certified, they came back, and so the program has been doing very well. And it's interesting because one of the most poignant things that one of the participants said last year, when we're dancing, we don't have Parkinson's. I think that's profound.
I love that because you're talking to a dancer here, and it's my favorite form of exercise. But for me, it's not exercise because it's so much fun. And when I'm dancing, I don't have a care in the world. You can't think about anything else except you're moving, you're having fun. It's a social, there's music. It's the best thing ever. And I love that you have the ballet for Parkinsonians.
Yeah, so it's called BBT for PT.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. If someone wanted to learn more, Denise, and they wanted to contact you, find out about your support groups, find out maybe about other support groups in another part of the country, maybe someone is watching us over the on the internet, and they have some loved ones in other areas that would like to get that information out to them. Can they call you and get those phone numbers from you?
Absolutely. So it's 800-825-2732. And then it's www.apdaflorida.org.
Okay.
And there's actually a drop-down menu where you can look at all of the other chapters and INR programs that are around the country.
And do the other chapters, are they structured the same way when you have your support groups where they have the couples and then they break off, or is that unique to South Florida chapter?
Well, I think that, each chapter does it differently depending upon the needs of the community, and we kind of look at that. We actually, we call it quality and high touch. And that simply means for us is that we are very in tune with what people's needs are, and we try to facilitate that by bringing in great programs for them. And that's why the chapter feels very, we have a dual mission, and that is ease the burden, find a cure.
Yep.
So we can ease that burden by providing support systems, for people, both Parkinson's people as well as the caregivers. Then we're doing our job.
Wow, that is so good. I have another question for you.
Sure.
It's related to the Alzheimer's again because we are seeing so many similarities, and things are changing, and it's a degenerative disease just like Alzheimer's is. When we mentioned before about eating and food, I was curious, people that have Parkinson's disease, do they experience trouble with chewing and swallowing their food?
Yes, and that's why the speech pathologist it's very important for them to really see someone of that nature, because oftentimes the throat does kind of get narrow. And it's the ability to have them do these exercises that strengthen the vocal cords.
Mm-hmm. And they have to be very careful about people choking, I think, because you mentioned before, when they're trying to drink and their hand is shaking, they're trying to get the cup up to their mouth to take a drink, and maybe the water's not going to go down the right pipe, and then they can aspirate their food. That happens with Alzheimer's patients, and surely it probably happens also in the case of a Parkinsonian where, they're going to aspirate, and then what happens is that liquid goes into the lungs and it can cause pneumonia. So you'll find that when people that have Alzheimer's disease, they will actually die of pneumonia as a result of the Alzheimer's disease.
Correct.
And this is something that we have to be aware of, and you might not know that it's actually happening. If your loved one is coughing, that they're trying to not have it go down the wrong pipe, but sometimes there's things that the doctor can prescribe, such as thickened liquids, or making sure that their food is chewed up very well, cutting their food in little tiny bites, doing little baby bites. A lot of people with Alzheimer's actually pocket their food, and they look like squirrels, like chipmunks with the nuts in their cheeks. And I don't know if Parkinsonians are the same way, but you have to be careful.
Correct. And sometimes food like lettuce happens to be difficult. So, because oftentimes that can get lodged into the throat.
Yes, we have to be aware, and these are things that people would learn at your support groups.
Yes.
Great.
Absolutely.
So will you share your phone number again with everyone?
Sure. It's 800-825-2732. 2732.
Wonderful. So you're welcome to call this wonderful, wonderful lady, Denise Jordan. She will put you in touch with the right people, the support groups, the doctors, everything that you need. You're welcome to contact Arden Courts with anything you need with Alzheimer's. Together, we're going to help a lot of people. And, that's what it's all about. It's helping and sharing and getting the education, getting the support to know that you're not in it alone. And that's what it's all about. So I want to remind everyone, give us a call. Arden Courts, toll-free number, 888-478-2410. Ask for your free copy of the 36-hour day book. You won't want to not have this book in your library because it is such a good read. Lots and lots of great information. You can pick and choose whatever topic you want, and it is something that will definitely help you. If you have family members that are not quite getting it, and as you're struggling through caregiving and they don't understand what you're going through, this is also a good book to give them so they can understand what caregiving is all about. So I hope that you take advantage of this. We want to provide this for you. We also want to offer you daycare for a respite to come try it out, have a free day for yourself. It's wonderful. Call us again on the toll-free number. They'll find an Arden Courts near you. We'll see you next week. Our time is up today, but don't forget, in the meantime, give someone a hug. They need it, and so do you. We'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.